Chapter 7. After Maharajji took Mahasamadhi in 1973, many were disheartened, many inconsolable, and many felt lost. It was that irresistible magnetic pull of Ma's divine love that drew thousands back to Baba Maharaj. Ma's message, Guru Ajar Amar Hota Hai, Guru is immortal, reached every heart, and her constant reminder of Maharajji's word to all devotees, तुम मुझे छोड़ दोगे मैं कभी नहीं छोड़ूंगा. You may leave me, but I will never leave you, began to give solace to many. If Maharajji was like the wind, then Ma was like a sail that had caught the wind to steer the boat. Within a period of 3 years of Maharajji leaving his mortal form, Ma's sankalp, her solemn resolve, led to the completion and the subsequent consecration of Maharajji's temple. The sun burst forth through the clouds once again. Khechi was immersed in devotion and bliss. And with Ma's deep compassion and her peerless Guru Bhakti, it was as though the atmosphere in the ashram was infused with new spiritual energy. Now that I was living in the ashram in Khechi, every day I witnessed the never-ending streams of people who came to Ma, and the varied scenes in the darshan room remain vivid in my mind to this day. Around 10 a.m., Ma would be seated either in the little room where I had met her for the first time, or what we call the carpet room, the Galiche wala kamra, talking to people who had come from far and wide from all walks of life. I would slip into the crowded room quietly and sit or stand in a far corner. My first opportunity at Seva came when I was called to translate the conversations Ma had with foreign visitors who had come for her darshan. But on most days, I was happy to simply bask in Ma's presence. Choti Mataji was also there with her. In fact, it was here that I first observed their deep bond and how at every moment they would anticipate and complement each other. Ma would welcome everyone in her warm and affectionate way, asking people about their journeys, how various family members were, often asking even after their children and grandchildren by name. Everyone was startled by how she remembered small, seemingly insignificant details about their lives. Then, Ma and Choti Mataji would take turns as they told a particular story about Maharajji's Leela. Someone might sing a bhajan for them, a child might recite the Hanuman Chalisa, a westerner might offer a hymn. A few people were so overcome by her presence that tears would flow from their eyes through the entire duration of the audience. I observed how each seeker had their own bond with Ma, and in their heart of hearts they all felt that she was theirs, and theirs alone. When people talked about their problems, Ma would tell them to pray to Hanumanji, often quoting from the Ramayana. Kavan so kaj kathin jag mahi, jo nahi hoye tat tum pahi. And the Hanuman Chalisa. संकट कटे मिटे सब पीरा जो सुमिरै हनुमत बलबीरा. Ma would listen attentively to each member of the gathering, giving them her affectionate guidance. One thing, however, was apparent to me and to everyone present. For Ma, it was always Maharajji. To anyone who sought her blessings, she would say, "Pray to Maharajji. Maharajji will take care of everything." People asked Ma to give names to their babies who had been brought to her for blessings, and many of these fortunate children were bestowed with their favorite names: Radha, Rukmani, Raghavendra, Dhananjay, Madhav. People asked Ma for little mementos, a locket of Maharaj, a book, a photograph, and she would send the young girls attending to fetch these. Someone would have brought a notebook, and Ma would have the patience to inscribe Ram Ram in it. I was surprised to note how the worried expressions of a few people would invariably be replaced by a sense of peace and contentment, even if they only got a fleeting moment with Ma. Later, I sensed that if someone in the room had a specific question for Ma that they hesitated to ask in front of others, they would find that Ma had intuited it and gone on to answer them, albeit in a conversation with a third person. So sensitive was she to their pride, their circumstances, or their sense of privacy. There were also in the room a few devotees who had brought very humble offerings for Ma, and that they were reluctant to place in front of her in full view of the gathering. Ma would smile at them and childlike eagerness say, मेरे लिए क्या लाया है? ला दे मुझे? What have you brought for me? Come, give it to me. Their inhibitions would vanish in a second, and whatever it was that they had brought, Ma would partake a little of it and share the rest with everyone. One day, Ma was sitting in the darshan room. It was about 12 noon. An elderly couple requested to come in. With them was a young girl who was weeping and had to be helped into the room. After offering pranam, they told Ma that their daughter had lost her husband within a few months of her marriage. They hoped that Ma's darshan would help in alleviating her grief. The father of the girl continued to tell Ma of the son in law's fatal disease and how painful it was for them to see their daughter widowed at such a young age. Then there was complete silence in the room. The girl continued to weep. Ma looked visibly moved, but to my surprise, she did not speak a word. I was standing on one side, silently praying in my heart that Ma, she should say a few words to the girl to give solace in her grief. But Ma remained quiet. Soon the lunch bell rang. Ma gave Prasad to the family and told me to show them the way to the dining hall in the ashram. Ma got up and went inside. I asked the family to follow me. We had barely crossed to the inner chamber of the ashram when the girl called out to her mother and said that something strange had happened to her. She said the pain of grief was no more in her heart. She was instead feeling very light, and she had not experienced such peace before. She was actually smiling. Her whole countenance had changed. Almost happy, the family proceeded for lunch. Gurutsva maunam vyakhanam. I realized the truth in these words. The silence of Guru is more powerful than Guru's words. Another day, it was still early in the morning when a devotee arrived at the ashram and requested to see Ma urgently. Wasting no time, Ma came to the darshan room. Ashwini told Ma that he was in acute pain for a couple of days. He had collapsed at home and had to be taken to hospital where he was advised immediate surgery. However, he chose to leave the hospital and came to Kachi instead to seek Ma's blessing. Ma heard him out and gently reprimanded him for ignoring medical advice. Then looking towards me, she said, इसको कॉड्रॉय के झोले से एक लाल गोली दे दे और एक ताकत की गोली भी. Give him a red tablet and an energy tablet from my corduroy bag. I knew that one was a mild analgesic and the other was a vitamin B capsule. What I could make out of Ashwini's conversation with Ma was that he had some kind of an acute problem. I couldn't figure out what an ordinary painkiller or a vitamin capsule would do for him. I hesitated for a second. Ma asked me again to go and get a glass of water along with the medicines. Ma took the tablets and after playing with them in her hands for a few seconds or two, she gave them to Ashwini. After he had ingested the tablets, he was told to return immediately. He went home. Ashwini did not need to return to the hospital after that. The problem did not recur. Jeff Skoll, the first president of eBay and a renowned philanthropist, arrived in Kachi one afternoon. He was accompanied by Dr. Larry Brilliant, a devotee of Maharajji and a pioneering epidemiologist who had played a vital role in the eradication of smallpox in India. We had no prior information about their visit, nor did we have any idea of their eminence in the modern-day world. They were invited for an audience with Ma that evening in the Galiche Wala Kamra. Ma was seated on a folded black blanket, very ostentatious setting. I was called to translate. Larry introduced Jeff to Ma. Ma was very happy as Larry recalled his memories of days with Maharajji in Kachi. Ma laughed when Larry expressed his regret that he had not met Ma in the early days. He said he would often see Jivanti Mataji cross the ashram courtyard, who otherwise remained indoors, and only those sent by Maharajji were able to go to the mothers. In Larry's words, Maharajji did not give him a visa to Ma. Jeff and Larry were again with Ma the next morning. Larry requested if Jeff could be allowed to visit Baba's kuti. Ma asked me to show them the way. Once inside the kuti, Larry spoke briefly and the two men sat in silence for a while. Coming out into the courtyard behind the kuti, Larry showed Baba's chair to Jeff, briefly telling him how he had met Maharajji here. At that point, Ma walked in from the other side of the courtyard. She casually picked up a small stone from the pebble courtyard and gave it to Jeff. On receiving it, Jeff was visibly moved, and Larry asked him the reason for it. Jeff then related that when he was in Afghanistan during his travels, he met a soothsayer who told him that at some point on his travels he would be given a white stone and that would mark the apex of his journey. Ma had given him a white stone. A very distinctive feature of Darshan Leela was that there was an abundant flow of prasad here. As in Maharajji's time, Ma was very particular that every visitor to the darshan room should receive some prasad before leaving. Since the number of visitors had increased tremendously from Maharajji's time, Choti Mataji would have the prasad distributed in an organized yet simple way. Packets of puris, dry potato curry, and cooked black gram that had been freshly made that morning would be brought to mother when she sat in the darshan room. The scene on that outside veranda was like a relay race. Baskets would be brought in filled with prasad from the Doodh Kaksh and empty baskets taken out to be refilled. Everyone present secretly desired to receive the prasad from her hands, and before they left, Ma would gracefully hand out a packet to each one present. If people brought fruits, Ma would distribute these then and there. The surplus would be sent to the dining hall for those who may have got left out. When devotees offered her a box of laddus or any other form of sweets as prasad, she would hold the box in her hand for a minute or so, on rare occasions take a pinch of it and distribute the sweets to those present there or give it back to be taken home. Small packets prepared containing sugar crystals, puffed lotus seeds and dried rose petals from flowers offered to Maharajji in the temple were given as prasad to devotees from the west since they had long distances to travel. Ma used to say, "Prasad se hriday parivartan hota hai." Sanctified food has the power to transmute the heart. Speaking of this spiritual power of prasad, a chapati or a piece of malpua would be given by Ma as medicine for many ailments. In the room adjoining Ma's kuti, in a big wooden cupboard, was stored a basket of prasad from the Jagannath temple in Puri, sacred water from the Koti Tirtham in Rameshwaram, and a jar full of dried grains of rice from bhog offered at Badrinath. I saw that for Ma, prasad was not limited to food. It could be a flower given by Ma, a picture of Maharajji, the handkerchief she held in her hand, and also, as we have seen in Jeff Skoll's anecdote, pebbles. Pilgrims returning from Kailash would bring stones for Ma, and she would give these out to people who came that day. Whenever we went to Chitrakoot, like children, we climbed the Kadamgiri hill and collected stones and gave them to Ma. She would take them in her hand and pointing with her finger, she would show us Ram or Om described on them. Often, she would show the face of Hanumanji with a mace. Ma would give out these stones as prasad, telling us that Lord Ram had lived in the Kamadgiri mountain for 12 years and these pebbles were not stones, they were gems. Chitrakutam, Manikutam. En route to Badrinath, Ma would ask for the car to be stopped near the Garur Ganga. We would sprinkle a little water upon us from the sacred river and collect stones from the riverbed. Ma would give these to people who frequently came across snakes in their houses. She would ask them to keep these stones in the houses and the snakes would not be seen after that.